special guest with me. So I am introducing John Cricket. He's basically a prolific writer on LinkedIn who has gained a following of 99,000 software engineers on LinkedIn. Just wow. So he basically shares ideas, suggestions, and real-world coding projects, and he helps you and me every day we to level up as a software engineer. So basically, John is a professional software engineer for 27 years of experience, and during that time, he has been both a staff software engineer and a VP of engineering. So welcome, John. Thank you so much. You joined me today. That was the
Thank you
most
for
of a session for me.
hello, and thank you for having me on there. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you.
So John is basically from UK, and today we are going to talk about project-based learning. So how it contributes to development of critical thinking, skills, teamwork, and something really practical. So I welcome John, and I would like to thank him again for joining me. And so John, basically, what's the idea behind the project-based learning? How can it help the professional software engineers? Let's talk in depth about this and help some
Sure.
guys who are just starting out their career, who have just started their career, or maybe at their earlier stage or mid of the career. So basically, would you throw some light on basically this project-based learning?
So the idea that I've adapted throughout my career and I found very, very useful is that, and there's this thing called the pyramid of learning that says that we can learn a little bit from going to a lecture, we can learn a bit from reading a book, from audio visuals, from a demonstration, and then we learn even more by actually getting active and engaging with the material. So if you attend a lecture at school or college or university, whatever you do, you're just receiving. You're not interacting with the material, you're not engaging with it. You're not trying to apply that knowledge. So there's a theory in learning, I say the learning pyramid, that the further down that pyramid you go, the better you learn. And that has been reflected in my experience. You go to a college lecture and somebody tells you about a sorting algorithm or data structure. Yeah, it's interesting. You might take some of it in, but you can't usually, at least I can't. I'm not smart enough to go away and just apply that then. It works far better if I listen to it, learn a little bit about it, read about it, go and try and apply it, maybe discuss some of the issues with a tutor or with a peer. So that's been my approach of how I've learned software engineering and how I've learned to build things, how I've learned algorithm data structures and software architecture for years. And now that's what I'm encouraging other people to do is take a tutorial, take a book, take the documentation, learn enough to get started, and then do a project, build something.
Exactly. Build something. Basically,
Yeah.
idea is build something.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, John, if I tell you about myself, I didn't understand programming in my college or university. Like there were so much on the slides in the class, and instructor used to come in the class, and you used to have the slides on, and I couldn't understand what he's saying. Like maybe there was bit of the concepts I was just struggling, me and my peers. And then I used to think that I could never do programming. Then in the seventh semester of my university, I got an internship and also I got a job in the same company. Then actually I learned programming on real projects, like real debugging, real problem solving. So you're not, if you're not doing a practical project, you're far from programming. You're reading books only, or the theory from the teachers doesn't make you a real programmer, right? So if you really want to, you want to shine in your career, you have to build really something practical, some real project or something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also helps you remember it because it's if you look at, say, a linked list on a piece of paper, it's quite dry. It's a picture. It doesn't make sense. Where you go away and build that, you get a far better understanding of it. You can play with it. You can step through things in the debugger and see how it really works. You take that through, maybe something like A-star algorithm for finding a shortest path for a graph. Sitting there and just watching somebody talk to you about it in a lecture or on a YouTube video, it's not the same as drawing it out on a whiteboard, talking to your peers about it, going away and thinking, well, how do I implement this? So yeah, those projects really help. And I was the same as you. When I first started learning to program, I read a book and it all seemed very, very vague. I remember quite early on when I started to learn C, reading about pointers and reading about memory and stack and heap. It
Exactly.
was like, what does this mean? It's all very
Yes,
abstract.
exactly.
It didn't make sense.
Exactly.
But start building something, you start to get a feel for
Exactly.
it. And yeah.
In my
So
first interaction with pointers, they were really awkward for me because they were on the books and I really couldn't understand what do they do.
so what was the first project you built that helped you, understand pointers then?
Yeah, the first my first real project basically was the project that was assigned by the university.
Hmm.
So they had the list of the projects. You went to the list, you go to the list and select a project for yourself. So basically, I started. That was kind of bugs tracking system. That was my first ever real project. That was meant to find the vulnerabilities or bugs into your application. So that was my first ever project. That was in C sharp. So before that, I didn't know how to do, like I used to make few assignments, but I was teacher used to program on the slides and you're reading definitions of interfaces and so on. So I always had the trouble of learning because I couldn't understand in the class, like when you do the practical labs, then you're actually grabbing something out.
Yeah, bug
So
tracking system is quite an interesting first project to do as well. That must have been quite
yeah.
enjoyable.
So I was very lucky, John, because I got the internship in my seventh semester. And in my company, they were doing a project in C sharp. So I just got the idea of how do the real projects look like. How they first of all they started me uh, to uh, to do the debugging on the application. So I started fixing bugs in the existing application. So with small baby steps, I got familiarity. So my project was successful. In during my final year presentation, there was a sudden bug that I fixed in front of so many audience. So I felt very good that day that I know I'm able to do I'm
I bet.
able to do something out.
So
So John, what was your first project?
um, can I answer that in a minute and just ask you a little bit more? So are internships quite common in Pakistan? Is that fairly rare? Were you one of a few, or is it quite common?
Basically, in Pakistan, yeah, it's rare that you get a job without the internship, right? So,
Right.
yeah, so you have to be familiar a bit about what you are going to do. If you're Java programmer, C sharp programmer, you have to do internship. So I basically did 2 months internship, and on that internship they evaluate your progress. If they find that you are good to go, then they offer the job. That was in my case.
Okay. And are internships over in Pakistan typically paid or unpaid? And how does that work?
They vary. They vary. In the company I'm working currently has some unpaid internships in the start, but if you are capable, they start paying you good. And a few days back, I was just reading the post that there are no jobs. I don't agree with this because in Pakistan, I see so many opportunities, but basically I'm a technical interviewer myself.
Okay.
So we don't find the right candidates, I think. I don't know about your industry, what's happening in the UK, but I don't see this in Pakistan. There are so many opportunities right now.
So I think I've seen both sides of that. When I've been a hiring manager in the past, we used to get an awful lot of CVs, but very few of them were appropriate for the role, and very few of them had the right attitude and aptitude. Um, on the flip side, I've been kind of contracting, and some people call it freelance a lot in the last few years as well.
Exactly.
And the market here is quieter than I've ever seen it in the last 27 years at the moment. So it is quiet. There's far fewer opportunities, even given that we're in the holiday season. But equally as much, it's always been difficult. There's been a lot of people looking for the jobs that don't necessarily have the right experience.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I think it's always been a problem, I think, as well, for junior developers though to get in the industry, because everyone wants to hire people as cheaply as possible with
Yes.
with that
Yes.
level of experience, and very few companies are
Yes.
actually building that model of bringing in junior people and developing them and growing them, which I think is a great shame, because the most satisfying times that I've had in my role as a manager have been bringing on junior people and developing them and seeing them grow. So sorry, I didn't answer your question before. My first project was actually when I was still a kid. I always enjoyed playing with computers since I was about 7 or 8, and I started really coding seriously at 9.
Exactly.
And I started trying to
Nice.
reproduce computer games that I played. So a lot of my earlier projects were trying to recreate Alien Breed or Sensible Soccer. For anyone that's as old as me and remembers those games.
Exactly. So basically, coming back to the this idea of project-based learning, so John, what do you think? What challenges some may encounter, or maybe have you encountered when implementing this PBL model, and how can some overcome that challenge? Basically, how can you overcome that
So
challenge?
the biggest problem that I've experienced and that I've seen other people experience has been what project to build. It's that inspiration because let's say like I was originally, I wanted to learn C back in the late 90s. So okay, I want to learn C. Well, what am I going to build with it? And I didn't really have a clear idea. So I spent a little while going back and forth. Like, what should I build? How should I build this? Should I build this? What features should it have? And that was a distraction from the goal, which was to learn how to program in C. So I stumbled on some projects that I liked, a little bit inspired by the people at 𝐏𝐫𝐴 and some of the things that they did around performance optimization. And the first project I really did in my professional career was to build a compression tool using Huffman encoding. And I've now repeated that project several
Very
times over the
nice.
years, building it in different languages.
Very nice. Very nice.
So that's partly why I started coding challenges. When I started learning Rust early this year, late last year, I was again thinking, what projects am I going to do? I did a few of them that I've done a few
Exactly.
times.
Exactly.
I got some ideas for new projects to do, and I was sort of talking to somebody and kicking an idea around. And I had the idea to start the newsletter and start sharing the challenges and sharing them for other people, thinking other people probably have the same issue that I do. And the feedback I've had since then, and part of the reason it's growing, there's been a lot of other people saying, yeah, I want to do more than just a tutorial on how to do another to-do
Exactly.
app. I want to build a real project. I want to dig into things.
Exactly. Yes.
So that's where it's come from, is I'm solving what I think is the biggest problem. That what do I
Exactly.
build?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I totally agree with this. So, John, basically, what strategies do you use to promote collaboration and teamwork, like among, if you choose to follow a project-based model, for example, let's take a case of someone just starting his career. So he start to follow us, for example, and he just chooses to follow this PBL, and he wants a group of 2 to 3 people, it may be. So, what strategies do you guide other people to promote collaboration and teamwork, maybe among a group that is just starting his career? So, how effectively they can apply this PBL to
So
promote collaboration and teamwork among each other?
yeah, I think the first thing is finding that group of people that want to learn and want to share and want to collaborate. That's well worthwhile.
Yes, yes,
And for coding challenges, I've got a Discord server where some people are getting together and pairing up to tackle them in different programming languages. So
yes,
it's first of all is find that group of people that you can collaborate with and that you can share
exactly,
ideas with. Then the next thing is pick something that you agree on doing. And again, don't get too focused on what it is, because the point is the learning. It's not necessarily the building X project. And then I'm a great proponent of pair programming. I've found when I started pair programming after reading Kent Beck's book, Extreme Programming, and it's taken code review to the extreme. But I
exactly.
actually found that I had experienced pair programming by accident a few months before reading the book, when I joined a company and we didn't have enough computers because the team had been put together quite rapidly. So I ended up sat next
Mm,
to somebody else, and he was tackling an interesting problem he didn't know how to tackle. And we ended up sitting around this one shared computer and tackling it together. And it was amazing fun because of that collaboration, that energy, that shared experience of how do we do something that
exactly.
it wasn't that technically difficult, but it was difficult because it was new to both of us.